Hi everybody, welcome to Sunday's Indycar. I'm Gordon Ross and welcome to a rain-soaked River Clyde in Glasgow this morning. It's a quiet day, nobody around, pretty miserable everywhere. Yesterday we saw the largest march for independence ever held, I believe, in Inverness. A massive success by all accounts. Official numbers were put at somewhere between 14 and 16,000. So I think we can say that it was a colossal success. Remember, Inverness is a smaller venue than Glasgow and a larger venue, obviously, than the one at Dumfries. So somewhere, we expected numbers somewhere in between what we had in Glasgow and what we had in Dumfries. So to get 15,000 was a massive success. So thank you to everybody who attended. And I've been watching the videos last night and this morning, which show, as usual, a perfectly well organised march and demonstration, all in good spirits, no crowd trouble at all. And interestingly, one very strange little procession, or well, not procession, one tiny counter demonstration by Scotland in Union, with the bizarre strains of Rule Britannia playing over a tannoy, almost added to the day by providing a comic relief to everybody passing over the bridge. So it's great to see so many people out demonstrating. However, the problem still remains that the mainstream media are not reporting these demonstrations. They're trying desperately to cover them up and to minimise them. And the mainstream newspapers this morning are claiming that there was a few hundred turned up, or a couple of thousand or 3,000. The numbers vary from newspaper to newspaper about exactly how many people showed up. Of course, Scotland and Union are claiming 3,000 because that's what they want it to say. They want it to look as if it was a small rally. But of course we know differently, because the official figures from the police and the organisers are showing somewhere in the region of 15,000 people. Now, the people of Inverness may not have seen something like this, at least since the referendum itself, but certainly not on this scale. And this is the only way at the moment that the independence campaign can bring its message to people directly, circumventing the media. We know that the whole campaign is being fought between the two different forms of media, social media on one hand and the mainstream on the other. Mainstream hates social media because social media streams news as it happens, unfiltered, without any editorial and without omissions and without silencing the people who are speaking, without providing voiceovers or commentary. A lot of the time what we're seeing, particularly from Independence Live, the TV company based in Govan who covers such events, is streamed video without any commentary and without any interruptions. So we can see the numbers for ourselves, we can see the people, we can watch a procession coming across a bridge and taking nearly half an hour for those thousands of people to cross that bridge. And from that point of view alone, I think we owe Independence Live a colossal thank you, because they're providing the truth on social media, unlike the BBC, unlike STV, unlike also the newspapers, which are misreporting, underreporting, and just plain lying about what's going on. So, as usual, Scottish people are fighting in the dark, deaf and blind, without any kind of media coverage of any kind that's balanced or even partly in favour of them, barring of course the national newspaper, which of course is pro-independence. In the media war, we've also seen a chilling new move by the BBC yesterday to take off the social media a very well-known, famous debunking website called Wings Over Scotland. Most of the independence campaigners will know of this website, run by Stuart Campbell in Bath. Now, Wings Over Scotland's purpose is to take mainstream media lies or spin and to take them apart forensically and prove that they're false statements. Now, to do that, Wings Over Scotland uses clips or parts of videos or basically sections of things that people have said on the media, and then prepares the truth, looks at the, researches the truth, finds out if the people talking on these videos are actually talking the truth, or whether they're spreading lies, or whether they're misreporting. And to do that, they use short clips. Now, the BBC yesterday had the whole of the Wings Over Scotland website taken off using a Facebook rule. Now this Facebook rule is used to shut down websites which are posting copyright material against the wishes of the copyright holders. So the BBC has used this rule to shut down Wings Over Scotland, which is trying to use or trying to look at various clips from BBC political and analysis shows, political debates, where it's trying to debunk what is being said on those clips. Now, if the BBC is successful using this technique, which they seem to be, of drastically and without any warning just shutting down somebody without any prior warning, no communications to say cease and desist, which is exactly what should happen in the case of a copyright infringement. Instead of that, they've gone straight to Facebook, and Facebook has pulled the site and suspended it completely without warning, without saying to the people who manage the site or moderate the site, you're infringing the copyright of the BBC, you need to cease and desist. So there was no warning given, there was no chance for Wings Over Scotland to refute these claims. But if you think about this logically, a site which debunks mainstream media stories can only debunk a mainstream media story if they can post online the clips concerned which are lies. Now, if they're prevented from debunking a lie because of copyright, then virtually everything that the mainstream media puts out as lies about anything they wish, because of copyright, anyone who challenges them can be silenced. Now, this has got to be the worst case I've ever seen of silencing freedom of speech in this country. Now, those of you who know me know that I tend to dig around and look for the truth in things, and I have people reporting to me from all over the place in all sorts of organisations, in all levels of political life, and these people are volunteering the stories to me. They're not professional videographers, they're not professional media people. So my show comes to you without any clips, and therefore it would be very difficult for the BBC or somebody else to try and shut me down in the same way that they've shut down Stuart Campbell's website. But it's an indication now of how desperate the establishment in London is to silence all social media, because social media is revealing just exactly how much lying is being done on the BBC and other websites. It's not a case of fake news. Fake news is manufactured stories which are lies. What the BBC is doing is not reporting the truth. And when it doesn't report the truth is hidden, and they can make the story seem like whatever they wish. So by reporting only the stories which are anti-independence, or only reporting sources of stories that are anti-independence, for example, quoting, say, the figures coming from Scotland and Union, or from other sources in the Conservative Party, and not reporting those from the independence campaign, what we're seeing is the BBC, Big Mother watching you, Big Mother stamping out all possible truth websites, all possible lines of other news coming to you on the internet or any other source. Eventually, mainstream media is going to try to shut down all internet media sites. The good thing, though, is from our point of view, and from Indycar's point of view at least, because my show is not using anybody's clips, it is simply reporting what's happening in other parts of the country and analysing it. My material is copyright. And because my material is copyright, anything that is taken out of context on my show, I could shut down the BBC for, going under the same rules that Facebook apply to the BBC. However, let's look at this logically. The British government at the moment is fighting on two different fronts at the one time. In fact, three different fronts if you count their own party. There's the internal battle in the Conservative Party, where it's split between Brexit and Remain. And then you've got the fight between the United Kingdom and Europe, which is going on all the way through the Brexit, so-called Brexit negotiations. And also there's this rearguard action being fought by the British state to shut down all hope of any kind of independence, and to prepare for a re-centralisation of all powers. In other words, taking back what was given in devolution from all of the smaller nations of the UK. In other words, shutting them down, shutting down their parliaments. But now we've seen that the BBC is throwing its weight around now and trying to shut down the one media outlet which was debunking the rubbish that they were putting out. Now the BBC, for all its casting around and accusing everybody else, but mostly the Russians, of fake news and accusing the Russians of putting out propaganda, the BBC is the biggest and most skillful propagandist on the planet. Even the Russians themselves admit that the BBC has the finest and most subtly tuned propaganda machine of anywhere in the world. And not only that, but the propaganda is so successful that they've even managed to talk us into paying for it ourselves through a license fee. That's how stupid we have become due to the propaganda. And not only that, but they're prepared now to send people to prison for not paying for the propaganda. A woman in Northern Ireland has got a jail sentence recently for not paying her television licence. The first and only woman I know of in the entire UK, in fact any person, who has actually been convicted and jailed for not buying a television licence. It's getting more and more like 1984. George Orwell was right. The people who control the information control the people. And that would be the British establishment and the BBC primarily control this country. And they are desperately scared that social media sources like Wings Over Scotland, like Independence Live, like myself, like Scott Goes Pop, like all of the other online bloggers and vloggers, we are all going to be targeted by the BBC throwing its weight around. This is something that I want everybody in Scotland who's involved in political campaigning, not just in independence, but in all forms. Doesn't matter what you're campaigning for. Be aware that we're all going to be targeted now by the state. They're going to use every means that they can, legal and, shall we say, semi-legal or quasi-legal, to shut us all down, because they cannot afford to lose control of the propaganda machine. They love to cast around the blame for losing elections, losing referenda, or for being stupid enough to vote yourself out of the European Union on the Russians, of all people. The Russians who had nothing to do with the Brexit vote. The Brexit vote was entirely manufactured by the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party are the ones who put out the fake news about Brexit. It was going to be easy. We were going to have £325 million a week to give to the National Health Service. And yet now we find out from the Office for National Statistics that if they give this £325 million a week to the NHS, that we will be in hyper-austerity for the next 50 years. This is the kind of misinformation that the BBC is engaged in. But they're also now, they think they're all powerful. They think they can shut people down. But we need to prove them wrong. There are millions of us, and there are only thousands of them. As somebody once said, I think it was in Star Trek, we are many and they are few. And we need to remember that. We are many. And on social media, we are millions. We are not just a few thousand people. We're not the 3,000 supposedly that Scotland and Union are telling everybody turned up at Inverness. We're not just the 15,000. We are 196,000 who watch this show on a regular basis. And that's going to climb, incidentally, because there are fewer and fewer sources of real information out there which have not been attacked or shut down by the British state. So I'm confident that Indycar, at least for the moment, despite several attempts at jamming me or trying to shut me down or trying to mess with my transmissions, despite all of that, I can carry on until they think of some way of shutting me down as well. So what I'm saying to you is, keep demonstrating, but keep building up the momentum. People need to see reality. What they're being told in the media is that there's no appetite for independence. But then they walk out on their main street and they see 15,000 people walking past them saying, that's not true, we do want independence. And it's that jarring incongruity, that dissonance that we have to keep pushing in front of people. The reality in Scotland is we do want independence. Thousands and thousands of us want it. Your neighbours want it. The man at the end of the street wants it. Your local policeman wants it, for goodness sake. You know, even the guy who drives your bus wants it. More and more people are coming up to me and shaking my hand every day and saying thank you for what you're doing. More and more people are recognising others in the independence movement and congratulating them. It's no longer a scary thing to walk through a car park wearing a Yes t-shirt. You used to be spat on and abused when you did that. Nowadays, you get people coming up to you and shaking your hand. And that is because of people getting out on the street and showing the actual reality, not the virtual reality of the BBC, the actual reality of real life in Scotland. We need to get out of the UK now before we leave the European Union. If we don't do this now, if we don't save Scotland now, we won't be able to ever save it again. This is not just once in a lifetime now. This is once in a century that we will have this chance to take Scotland out of the United Kingdom before the damage is done to it. There isn't going to be another chance at this. So we have to keep out on the streets. We need to make ourselves visible. We need to talk to people. We need to get the message out without going through social media constantly. We can use social media, but it will start to get compromised by the actions of the state. We've already got hundreds of GCHQ trolls, fake accounts. Every day I shut down or block at least 6 of these trolls and fake accounts that come onto my threads. Most of them are bot accounts. And this is what the BBC claims the Russians are doing. But this isn't the Russians doing this. This is the British state trolling. This is the British state with the fake accounts. So be warned, be on the lookout for troll accounts. Anything that doesn't sit right with you, always check people's profiles when they come onto a thread saying something weird, right? Look at their profiles, look and see how long they have been on. Look and see if they have some actual history. Look and see if they share friends with you, and look and see whether their account looks like a generic account with some random photographs of random people and 1 or 2 independence badges stashed on it. There are fake accounts that you can spot a mile away. But the point is that this is going to keep happening, and we have to keep defending against it. The war is being fought between one media type and the other. And we at the moment are on the side with the most troops, but the least amount of credibility because of the dominance of television. So we need to stop watching television, and we need to warn other people not to believe everything that they see on TV. I mean, most people don't anyway, and certainly not to believe anything that the newspapers print, because almost all of it is skewed against independence. Only the National isn't. Anyway, I'll leave it there for today, but congratulations to everybody who went to Inverness and actually carried the torch, carried what they used to call the fiery cross across the land, raising the troops, waking people up and showing them the reality that Scotland does want independence. We do want another referendum. We need another referendum. Otherwise, we risk going down with the UK ship. And there I shall leave you, right? Not going down with the ship, but saving the ship. Scotland needs you, and it needs you out on the streets. My job at the moment is to try to encourage people to do that, and to try to keep a grip on reality for everybody, so that we know where we are, that we're rooted in the reality of now, not in some fantasy land that the BBC is creating, not some cosy British fantasy where everything is fine and we're all chums together and we're all fighting on the same side, and it's the Dunkirk spirit. That's all baloney. The fact of the matter is Britain is about to wreck its own economy voluntarily and set itself adrift on the world stage. Whereas Scotland, we've got much better ideas, and we have got a better grip of where we are in the world. And I think we know that now, and I also think that we know that we can run ourselves. We've got a perfectly successful government. It's not absolutely perfect in all senses. It does some stupid things sometimes and we have to pull them up, but at least it's our government. And it's our government which is not borrowing billions and billions of pounds that it can't repay. It's not fighting wars that are unnecessary. It's not cutting jobs. It's not cutting ship orders. It's not doing deals, dodgy deals with America for chlorinated chickens. And so, you know, we are the Scots. We can do our own thing. We don't need the British state, and we can fight against this media campaign just by sheer weight of numbers. Imagine 2 million people versus what, the 2,000 or 3,000 who work for the BBC at Pacific Quay in Glasgow. That's a big set of numbers. We can overwhelm them easily on social media, and that's what we need to do. Social media and on the streets, and we'll win it. And I predict by October we'll have a date for a referendum, but I predict that we will win it, and we'll win it handsomely this time. I think we're looking at over 60% for yes this time, because nothing else makes any sense anymore. What's the point of staying in the UK when your economy is going to be deliberately destroyed for a needless Brexit that we never voted for? What's the point in that? Nobody would vote to end their own job, to close their own company down, to axe the shipyard jobs. Nobody would vote for that, and yet that's what we got for the no vote. That's what's happened. Anyway, I'm off. I will see you later. But thanks to everybody who went to Inverness, and let's make the next march, because there's going to be another one and another one and another one, and they are going to go on all through the year until we win this fight. Good luck to everybody who marches on the next march. I'll be giving a talk in Pennycook in September, which is open to the public. As far as I know, I haven't got a date just yet, but I'll come back to you on that. There will also be other bigger name speakers than me there, so I hope everybody in Pennycook will come along to that in due course. But I'll pass the information on to you once I got it. Bye for now. See you later.